Hello students, welcome to yet another biological science digital class. In the previous session part 1, we have studied regarding the structure of various parts of human brain. In this part 2, let us study the functions of various parts of human brain. Students, look at this picture, quickly recap the structure of various parts of human brain. The part 1, we have studied that human brain is divided into 3 distinct parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. You recollect those things which you have studied from the part 1. Now, let us move on to the functions of various parts of the human brain. Now, students, this is the picture showing the various parts of the human brain. Observe the picture and try to observe these parts, and the brain and as well as spinal cord is covered by 3 membranes called meninges. So, the brain is protected by some protective meninges or membranes. They are outer dura mater, middle arachnoid membrane and inner pia mater. So, these are the protective meninges that surrounds the brain and protects the brain. So, outer dura mater, middle arachnoid membrane, this is the inner pia mater which surrounds the brain. There is a space between these meninges called as cerebrospinal space, which is filled with a fluid. So, there is a fluid between these meninges called cerebrospinal fluid, which is filled between the meninges, protecting the brain and spinal cord, and this protects the brain against the mechanical shocks. So, the fluid which is the blue colored portion indicates the cerebrospinal fluid. So, here in this picture you can clearly see the cerebrospinal fluid flows within the. So, this is the blue colored portion where the cerebrospinal fluid flows within the brain and as well as surrounding the brain. So, the same cerebrospinal fluid also surrounds the spinal cord and even flows within the spinal cord, gives protection to the brain and as well as spinal cord against the mechanical shocks. So, this is the picture showing the various parts of brain. So, the human brain is divided into 3 parts: forebrain, midbrain, hindbrain. So, this part of brain is called as forebrain, and this part light blue colored part is called as midbrain, and the deep blue colored part is called as hindbrain. So, the human brain is divided into 3 parts. Let us look at this flow chart. Brain, forebrain includes olfactory bulbs, cerebrum, diencephalon, whereas midbrain includes optic lobes. Hindbrain includes cerebellum, pons orali, medulla oblongata. Now, the forebrain, which includes the olfactory bulbs, these are the club shaped structures that are present at the bottom of the cerebrum, and the largest part of the brain is the cerebrum, which is divided into 2 longitudinal equal halves called cerebral hemispheres, the right cerebral hemisphere and this is the left cerebral hemisphere. So, there is a longitudinal deep fissure. So, this is the longitudinal fissure which divides the cerebrum into 2 equal halves called right and left cerebral hemispheres. These 2 cerebral hemispheres are internally connected by a transverse bundle of nerve fibers called corpus callosum. Now, this is the cross section of the brain and this is the transverse section of the spinal cord. If you see these 2 pictures, so what is the difference? So, here towards the peripheral or outer region the grey matter is present, whereas centrally white matter is present. If you see in the cross section of the brain, so this is the outer margin where we see the grey matter and this is the central part where we see the white matter. Unlike in the spinal cord, the outer part is white matter, whereas the central part is grey matter. So, this is absolutely reverse to that of brain. Now, the parts of human brain in the cerebrum. Each cerebral hemisphere is further divided into 4 lobes. So, the 4 lobes are here represented by different colors. So, the red colored one is frontal lobe, the yellow colored portion is called as parietal lobe, the light blue colored part is called occipital lobe, and here the purple color is called temporal lobe. So, each forebrain is divided into 4 lobes. Now, coming to the last part of forebrain, that is diencephalon. So, this part is called as diencephalon. Diencephalon consists of three parts: epithalamus, thalamus and hypothalamus. So, the hypothalamus has a stalk like structure called as infundibulum, and at the tip of the infundibulum a peanut sized structure is present called pituitary gland. So, this part of brain is called as diencephalon. So, this is the last part of forebrain. Now, coming to the midbrain. So, midbrain is the smallest part of the entire brain, which consists of 4 optic lobes, and that condition is called as corpora quadrigemina. Quadrigemina in the sense that 4 optic lobes are present. So, these are 2 superior larger sized optic lobes, and here these are 2 inferior or posteriorly smaller sized optic lobes. So, 4 optic lobes are present in the midbrain of our human brain. Coming to the hindbrain, which consists of 3 parts of them. First one is cerebellum. So, the cerebellum is considered as the second largest brain of a human brain, which is also divided into 2 halves called cerebellar hemispheres, which are connected by a narrow vermis. So, this is also called as little brain or the second largest part of the brain, and this is pons varolii. This is situated in front of the cerebellum, just behind the midbrain, and the last part of the hindbrain is medulla oblongata. So, the midbrain, the pons varolii and the medulla oblongata, these 3 constitute to form brain stem. So, the medulla oblongata is triangular or conical in shape, that is the last part of the brain. This continues as spinal cord that extends into the vertebral column. Let us know the functions of the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the seat of mental abilities. It is the control of our senses, imagination, and it is the control of learning new things. The cerebellum is involved in the body's motion and learning new things, and the medulla, which controls and coordinates all involuntary functions such as the peristaltic movements of the digestive tract, the breathing, that is the respiratory movements, the cardiac center is under the control of medulla oblongata. Cerebrum, sensing, thinking, imagination; cerebellum, motion, balance, learning new things; and medulla oblongata is involved with automatic actions in body, breathing, digestion, etc. Students, just now you have seen a small animated video which shows the functions of various parts of the brain. Now, let us go in detail regarding the functioning of brain with different structures. The first one is olfactory bulbs. If you look at this picture, the olfactory bulbs are involved with a sense of olfaction. So, the olfactory bulbs are concerned with sensation of the smell. Identify or recognize different smells, a good smell, a bad smell, a stinking smell, isn't it, or different smells of different flowers. So, all this is under the control of olfactory bulbs. Next one is cerebrum. Cerebrum is not only the largest part of human brain, it is involved in many activities. Cerebrum is considered as the seat of intellectual abilities or mental abilities, such as if you see these pictures, the first picture the boy is thinking, in the second picture a man is solving a problem. So, problem solving, memory, both short term memory and long term memory are concerned with cerebrum, reasoning and different kinds of emotions, speech. So, all these thinking, problem solving, memory, reasoning, creative thinking, judging, showing different emotions, speech, all of these are under the control of cerebrum. Cerebrum is also controlling all voluntary actions. So, all voluntary actions are controlled and coordinated by cerebrum. The cerebrum is a main controlling center of all voluntary actions. Now, the diencephalon, which is the last part of the forebrain. It acts as a relay center for sensory impulses such as pain, temperature, light. It also acts as reflex center for muscular activities. It is also the center for certain emotions such as anger. It is the controlling center for water balance, blood pressure, body temperature, sleep and hunger. So, diencephalon is involved in controlling all these functions in our body. Now, coming to the midbrain. So, the midbrain is the smallest part of human brain. It is concerned with sense of vision and sense of hearing, that is midbrain. The two superior optic lobes are concerned with vision, that is sight, and the two inferior optic lobes are concerned with auditory function, that is hearing different kinds of sounds. So, this is the function of midbrain. So, in this picture, the balancing, maintaining different body's posture is under the control of cerebellum. If you look at this boy, he is trying to balance his body. So, the cerebellum is controlling, or it is involved in maintaining our body's balance, equilibrium and maintaining different body's posture while walking, running or doing any other physical action, So, our body is balancedly maintained, equilibrium. Okay. So, this is under the control of cerebellum. Cerebellum also do the function of controlling the involuntary actions that are initiated by the cerebrum. Coming to the last part of brain, the last part of hind brain, medulla oblongata. So, the medulla oblongata is considered to be the very important part of human brain, which controls all the involuntary important actions of our body, such as the cardiac center. So, the cardiac center is in the medulla oblongata. Our heart beating is under the control of medulla oblongata, which is involuntarily done. Even our respiratory center is under the control of medulla oblongata. Our breathing movements are under the control of medulla oblongata. Even vasomotor activities. So, vasomotor activities in the sense that our blood vessels contain the smooth muscles. So, the dilation of the blood vessels, that is increase in the volume of lumen of the blood vessels or decrease in the size of the lumen of the blood vessels, that is increasing blood pressure or decreasing blood pressure. So, that is called vasomotor activities. So, all the involuntary and important life surviving, life saving activities are under the control of medulla oblongata. Even medulla oblongata is also involved in reflex actions such as coughing, vomiting, sneezing, hiccuping and sneezing. So, the medulla oblongata is involved in these actions. So, the medulla oblongata controls yawning, sneezing, coughing, hiccuping, vomiting, all these are under the control of medulla oblongata. The other part of central nervous system is spinal cord. Now, if you look at this picture shows the spinal cord, the tail like portion that is extended from the medulla oblongata and enters into the vertebral column. So, the vertebral column contains some space, and into this space the spinal cord enters. Okay. It extends up to the lumbar region. It is almost cylindrical in shape. So, both brain and spinal cord together form the central nervous system. The spinal cord is also equally as important as brain. Now, if you take the transverse section of the spinal cord, it shows two different regions unlike the brain. So, here the outer portion of the spinal cord consists of white matter and the central portion of spinal cord consists of gray matter. The gray matter is composed of cell bodies, while the white matter consists of bundles of myelinated axons. The white matter consists of bundles of myelinated axons and the gray matter is composed of cell bodies. The white matter is again distinguished into different regions. So, this region is called as posterior column or funiculus, and this is called as anterior or ventral column or funiculus, and two lateral funiculi are present on either side of the grey matter, and the grey matter is also distinguished into two regions. So, this is called as posterior horn or dorsal horn, and this is called the ventral horn or anterior horn. So, this is the transverse section of spinal cord. This is another picture of spinal cord showing the emergence of the spinal nerves. So, this part of the diagram is called as dorsal root, and this is called as ventral root. So, both dorsal root and ventral root converge to form the spinal nerve, and this bulged portion which lies immediately after the dorsal root. So, this is called the dorsal root ganglion. So, the dorsal root coming from the dorsal side and ventral root coming from the ventral side of the spinal cord unite together to form spinal nerve. Now, this diagram also shows the spinal cord. Students, after knowing the function of brain, let us know the functions of spinal cord. What is the function of spinal cord? Do spinal cord play an important role in the control and coordination? Absolutely. Though spinal cord acts as middleman between the brain and the rest of the body, between the brain and the effectors and receptors, the spinal cord also plays an important role in controlling the spinal reflexes. In the part 1, we have studied about the reflex actions, isn't it? All the reflex actions are under the control of spinal cord. In normal situations, what does the spinal cord do? The spinal cord is the root, it is the mediator or the middleman between the rest of the body and the brain. So, all the sensory information that is collected by the sensory receptors first comes to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord that sensory information is transmitted to the brain where it is analyzed or processed, and in turn the brain gives or delivers the messages in the form of motor information. Again that motor information first comes to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord it is sent to the effectors through the connections called nerves. So, the spinal cord acts as middleman, but at times in controlling spinal reflexes the spinal cord play an important role. Students, look at this slide which shows the functioning of spinal cord. So, here this is the spinal cord, this is the brain. So, all the information that is coming from the receptors first comes to the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord it goes to the brain, and the motor information which comes from the brain comes to the spinal cord and goes to the effectors. So, this is like a middle man. So, coming to the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is formed by the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are associated with the brain, hence they are called as cranial nerves, and the nerves which are associated by the spinal cord are called as spinal nerves. In human beings, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves which emerge or come out of the brain, and there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that emerge from the spinal cord. So, both cranial nerves and spinal nerves together form the peripheral nervous system. The cranial nerves are again of 3 types like efferent, efferent and association based on their functioning. Students, look at this animated video and try to understand the concept of peripheral nervous system. So, after understanding the central nervous system, so this video is showing the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is all about the nerves, both cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Information going towards the brain and information coming from the brain to the effectors. So, these nerves are called as motor nerves. So, here in this video you can clearly see how the sensory nerves and motor nerves work in transmitting the information to and from the brain. This is the picture showing the cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves emerge from the brain. Students, look at this picture showing the cranial nerves and as well as spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are associated with the brain, or they are originating from the brain. there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and these are the nerves originating from the spinal cord called spinal nerves. So, both cranial nerves and spinal nerves together called peripheral nervous system. So, peripheral nervous system is distinguished into two divisions: somatic neural system and autonomic neural system. Somatic neural system is the nervous system which controls all of our voluntary movements or voluntary actions, such as walking, running, reading, writing, isn't it? So, all these are voluntary actions. We have studied the differences between voluntary actions and involuntary actions. So, all of our voluntary movements are under the control of somatic neural system. Coming to the autonomic neural system, all of our involuntary movements or involuntary actions are under the control of autonomic neural system, such as heart beating, blood pressure, the peristaltic movements, and all reflex actions which are not under our conscious effort. So, they are under the control of autonomic nervous system. So, students, can you recognize these pictures which you have studied in your 9th class, animal tissues? So, here you have studied about different muscles, isn't it? This picture is showing the visceral muscles. The visceral muscles are the muscles which are present in our visceral organs, and these are the muscles that are present exclusively in the heart, called cardiac muscles. And this picture is showing the muscles that are associated or attached to the skeleton, called skeletal muscles. Of these three muscles, the skeletal muscles, the movement of skeletal muscles is under the control of somatic neural system, whereas the movement of cardiac muscles and visceral muscles are under the control of autonomic neural system. Autonomic nervous system is further distinguished into two subdivisions: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic neural system is active during stressful conditions. So, whenever we are in stressful conditions, so the sympathetic nervous system is very active. It is preparing our body to face the situation. It brings all the changes in our body that are very much required to face the stressful conditions, which includes increase in our heartbeat, increase in our blood pressure, increase the peristaltic movements. It also involved in the dilation of pupil, inhibits the peristaltic and acceleration and the dilation of bronchioles. All these changes are under the control of sympathetic neural system, which is very active during stressful conditions. So, the overall effect of sympathetic neural system is stimulating and excitatory. Coming to the parasympathetic system, it is the system which is active during relaxing times, that is after stressful conditions. So, the parasympathetic system restores the body to the normal conditions, and what are all the changes that occur during stressful conditions are restored back to the normal conditions. So, the overall effect of the parasympathetic neural system is inhibitory type. So, it brings the rate of heartbeat to the normal, even the blood pressure is restored, it comes back to the normal, the rate of respiration also comes to the normal, and the pupil constricts. So, all these changes occur after the stressful conditions. So, both sympathetic and parasympathetic are the subdivisions of autonomous nervous system. Students, so far we have seen the control and coordination of our body by the nervous system, by the brain, by the spinal cord, and by different nerves. Now, the nerves cannot innervate to all the cells of our body, they cannot reach all of our cells, yet all the cellular activities need to be monitored, regulated continuously. They requires a special kind of So, they requires a special kind of coordination to control all the cellular activities. So, this is the system which controls the activities of our body by releasing chemicals called hormones. So, look at this picture students. So, this is the picture showing the endocrine system. In the part 1 I told that there are two coordinating systems, one is nervous system, another one is endocrine system. So, this is the endocrine system which consists of endocrine glands. So, these are all the endocrine glands together form the endocrine system, and the coordination brought by this endocrine system is called chemical coordination, and all these glands are called as ductless glands. Why? Because the secretions of these glands are directly released into the bloodstream instead of carrying by the ducts, because these glands do not possess ducts to carry their secretions. As no ducts are present to carry their secretions, so these glands are called as ductless glands. The secretions are directly released into the bloodstream and reach their target organs to show their effect. So, this picture shows the location of various endocrine glands in our body. So, all these are the endocrine glands, different endocrine glands starting from hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is an integral part of endocrine system with the key functioning linking of nervous system with endocrine system with the pituitary gland. So, this is the thyroid gland, this is the pancreas, the yellow colored part, the adrenal gland which is present at the anterior part of kidney, in males testicles and in females ovary, and here in the chest region thymus gland, and in the epithalamus region we have pineal gland. So, all these are different endocrine glands. Now, let us understand the concept of body coordination by two integrating systems. Nervous system. The nervous system coordination is controlled and coordinated by central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The examples: walking, running, writing, listening. So, all these activities are controlled by the nervous system with the help of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Coming to the chemical coordination, this is controlled and coordinated by the endocrine glands and their secretions usually called as hormones. Examples: the body growth, the blood concentration, and the reproduction, that is development of sexual organs, is under the control of endocrine system, that is chemical coordination. So, functions of various parts of the brain: peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves, spinal nerves, the role of spinal cord in nervous control. We have seen the transverse section of spinal cord. Autonomous nervous system, we have seen sympathetic and parasympathetic, and coordination without nerves, that is the coordination brought by endocrine glands with the help of their secretions called hormones, that is chemical coordination. Different endocrine glands, the feedback mechanism, how the release of hormones is controlled, and the table of endocrine glands, their secretions and their functions. And for your assessment, there are some questions. If you visit a doctor, what doubts you would like to clarify about pancreas? Collect the information about cranial nerves and spinal nerves from internet. Write about different endocrine glands and their role in the coordination of our body. For better understanding, download the worksheets from the SIET website, practice them at home. Thank you. We shall meet in another session.
నేషనల్ మీన్స్ కమ్ మెరిట్ స్కాలర్షిప్ సాధించేందుకు ప్రతిభగల ప్రభుత్వ పాఠశాల విద్యార్థులకు టీశాట్ ప్రత్యేక శిక్షణ కార్యక్రమం తెలంగాణ విద్యాశాఖ ఆధీనంలోని సైట్ SIET సహకారంతో విద్యా ఛానల్లో ఉదయం 11:25 నుండి 12:25 వరకు, సాయంత్రం 5 గంటల నుండి 6 గంటల వరకు అదే ఛానల్లో పునర్ప్రసారం అవుతాయి. NCERT ఆధ్వర్యంలో ప్రతి ఏటా నవంబర్లో జరిగే NMMS స్కాలర్షిప్ పోటీ పరీక్షలకు టీశాట్ పాఠ్యాంశాలు మేధస్సును పెంచనున్నాయి.